Getting set up here. So I'm just getting my chat to be visible. And it looks like we're just about ready to go here. All right, let's make a mess. All right. Welcome in. So we finished up the long shafts. Now we're making the 6-inch and the 4 1/4. Which are all the ends of the other ones that we've cut out. Well, the good news is I should get a fresh batch of doweling in tomorrow. So I said I'm thinking we did pretty good about ordering just on the right time. Yeah, they're much smaller now. Holding on to it as just as little area as I can. Let's try that again. There we go. Yeah, I was scared that was going to be an issue there. There we go, there's a little one. Hey Sky, how's it going? Welcome in. So we are turning hard maple today. Thank you for double clicking on the screen, much appreciated. Nice. Well, welcome back in. So these are just smaller ones. Now I would like to get as many 6 inches as I can, but you can. My story stick here, my 6-inch story stick is really tight on this one. So we'll try. So worst case scenario, we make 4 1/4 inch shafts as well. So yeah, there's some vibration up there, so we're just going to make this into a short one, which is fine. Now we're just burnishing with some wood chips, adding some wax. So, my partner is here, still working on taxes. We got another week, so. She did promise me that she will be drilling some holes for me today, so I should be able to get on the scroll saw later. But we'll see. I can make these all day long. Don't get me wrong, I've been making them already for a couple hours. So this one's too short for a 6, so it's going to be a 4 1/4. Might have to tape that down. So, sorry about the whole book up here. So I replaced the bag on my exhaust here. Yeah, so when I'm making the longer shafts, I have a much longer tool rest. So I've got a 12-inch tool rest on here. But to make the little ones, I just don't have enough space on my tailstock, so I have to put a smaller one on. Yes, I upgraded the signs. I don't know if it's better or not. But I did open up LibreOffice for this. But you notice I still did not use the laser engraver, the CNC machine, or a 3D printer to make them. I don't know. If I would make like permanent things, it'd be like, yeah, I don't know. Just not my vibe. But I did vote today, so that's good. So today's vote was just for a Wisconsin Supreme Court justice, and the other things was all local village stuff. Most everybody was running unopposed. There was only one other one where you had to choose between two people. If the Supreme Court, the Wisconsin Supreme Court, wasn't up, I probably wouldn't have voted this time around. The next time to be a post-it note, it may be. I do have them. Well, it just hit the impeller. Alright, so we're going to walk through this one. So we're turning hardened maple today. We're making a little 4 1/4 inch shaft. So when I order these, I order them thicker than I need them so I can bring down the diameter to make them true. These are spit out on a machine and they're never straight. Start bringing the diameter down with the roughing guide. I'm using this spanner or wrench as a caliper. So this one's gonna be a little bit too small to make it 6 inch, so we're gonna make it 4 1/4. So I'm hoping on Thursday I'll be making a bunch of different types of spindles. I need to make a bunch of Russians. I'm just waiting for the materials to come in. So those are longer and a little bit more involved. This is called a story stick. It just has lines on. You just go up there and just transfer them over. I'm going to take a skew, I'm going to mark in the bottom and where I'm going to burn a line. Come up to the top and I'm going to lay in the finial on the top and define the diameter underneath. I'm going to switch back to my spindle gouge, kind of blend everything together. Then we're going to burn a line on the bottom here so I have some wire. Turn the lathe down a little bit, we're going to sand it out. So we're starting with a medium grit. Moving to a fine grit. Now I'm taking some wood chips and just holding it against it while it's spinning, so I'm burnishing. Think of it like a friction polish, adding some wax. So we did everything we could do well between centers. So we're clamped in here. This side we got a pin that's sticking in and it's spinning. Since we're clamped in on this side, I am able to cut the top off. Find the shape of hair, and then go back to sanding. Burnish. And wax. So now it's done. I'm going to take the skew, I'm going to cut it off on the bottom. Yeah, this one's too short, so I'll do the 4 1/4. They sure are. These are all the minis. They're cute though. So this is the smallest size I make. They are cute. You know, they're good for cobweb to lace weight. I think a lot of people spin them up once and use them as decoration. Yeah, you can get about 100 yards of cobweb on these, but it doesn't weigh anything. Let's make sure we get enough room. Yeah. Yep, so I ran out of the longer material that I have. That being said, I've got like a dozen pieces that are set aside. They're kind of like, I don't know, worst case scenario. In case I sell a bunch of stuff. I don't know, I just keep them around just in case I need to make something special, so I have a little buffer. But yeah, pretty much I'm out of the big stuff now, so now we're going through all the little pieces that come from the bottom. So I start with the long piece, I make a long spindle, and then I'll have a little bit on the bottom. That's what this is. Right? You know, I want to use up as much as I can. You know, and the stuff that I can't use will end up in my fireplace. So pretty much try to use up as much as I can. I don't like wasting it. You know, it's a resource. Hello, Wolfenworks. Welcome in. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Types of wood do I use? For the shafts, I primarily use hard maple. Sometimes I'll do exotic shafts, but as far as the arms go, this one is canary wood. I use, as far as domestic woods go, I use a lot of maple, hard maple, walnut, and cherry. As far as exotics go, I like bacote quite a bit. Yellow heart, red heart, purple heart, Vera wood, cocobolo, just a bunch of exotic stuff. Yeah. The mill locally here used to get Osage orange in, and they haven't for like a year and a half now. I'm in Wisconsin, so we're pretty far north. You know, you get down into Texas and they'll throw it at you. You know, here, get this out of here. So let's go in the back and we're pretty picked over right now. We don't have a ton of exotics in here, but brand new bag. Alright. Yep, so we got some curly hard maple. Some bird's eye. See the little bird's eyes in there. I think that's a bizarre looking piece of bacote. This is zebra wood. And then we got some Mexican ebony. This is, is it Cadillacs? Yeah. The problem is I make really small things, so when I find curly maple, it has to have a lot of striping in it. Otherwise, it's not going to show up in the final product. We got some Paduke here, some African Paduke. We got some yellow heart. I'm not sure why we have black walnut up here, but we got some black walnut. This is canary wood. Pretty stuff. We got some purple heart. So this is Bolivian rosewood here. This is yaya wood, also known as white wange. Which is pretty neat. This is leopard wood. Has spots on it. Now, I don't use a lot of like oaks in what I do, but this is curly white oak. It's kind of hard to see. Once it gets finished, it's kind of like the curly maple. It's got a lot of really cool grain. Yeah, a lot of the stuff, well, some of it comes from the African continent. A lot of this is Central to South America. I don't have any bacote up here. I really like bacote, but we're getting ready for shows, so there's a rainbow colored wood. Yeah. Yep. You know, and then, you know, we got our cherry and maple, walnut. This is genuine mahogany. So this is pretty stuff too. We got some bigger curly stuff. We got some ash over here. So yeah, that's what we have right now. But if we come over to the inventory, I can show you what the bacote looks like. So we're getting ready for a show, so I'm doing a lot of the sawing and turning now. And then in a little bit, we'll get back to the sanding. So eventually, all of these will be sanded. We got a couple shows coming up. Huh. I don't have any bacote over here? That's hard to believe. Come over here to the racks. Well, you're gonna have to trust me. So yeah, this is what's on Etsy right now, and then this is on SnyderSpindles.com. Well, some little ones in there. Do you know specific weights on the spindles? Yeah, if you go to listing, there's a weight range on them. So when we go through, we weigh them. So this one is 0.8 ounces or 24 grams. So yeah, the weight ranges are all on the website. Awesome. All right, we'll check on the 3D printers. So, unfortunately, we're still in dragon mode. I wanted to get away from dragons, but the last show we went to, we brought 40 and we came home with 4. So, hello, welcome in. So now we're making a bunch of little sheep. These little guys. Um, so I put these in with orders, so if you order something, you get a little sheep. We also make stitch markers and earrings out of them. And we give them away at shows. So we'll have a bin and then people can come, and we're going to be in Minnesota, so got the purple going. And lots of black. So I kept two of my old printers. This is one of them. So this is Engelbert. It's a little King Rune printer. Little cantilever printer. So that's one of my old printers. My other old printer is this Ender 3 V2S1. So they're good for like making sheep and stuff, getting ready for shows. The A1 Mini, this one I'm making 6 at a time, so I'm making 1 at a time. So when I'm running out of filament, I can go over here. That way, if it runs out, I miss 1 sheep. Where on this, if you'd run out of material on the other style printer, you would waste 108 or whatever. So we've been keeping these running. Wow, she's fast. She's everywhere. All right. Yeah, so me and Vicky were both wearing Bluetooth headsets. They're hearing protection, and we're watching season 1 of Criminal Minds. So, from where I'm sitting, this is what I'm looking at. So we got Criminal Minds. I have a live stream going, so I can see make sure the camera's working. And then I got the chat up there. Life's hard. Yeah, so if you're new to the stream, my name is Scott. This is my day job. I run Snyder Spindles. This channel here, we do a lot of beginner to intermediate scroll saw, beginner stuff, lathe stuff. So I tend to do some project videos, so I'll come up with a pattern. We'll make the item, and then you can make it yourself if you want to, and download the pattern for free. No kindred spirits. We're Criminal Minds today, because we've seen all the kindred spirits. So Amazon has the first 5 seasons of Criminal Minds, so we'll watch the first 5 seasons. But, so I'm watching it. So I realized that Jesse Pinkman is dressed up like J.D. Vance in this episode, which is amazing. Man, look at those eyes. We might get to ghost stuff later. We'll see. But yeah, Criminal Minds did it. Ever watch the Dead Files? Absolutely. I'm trying my best not to do a horrible, like, New York accent. I don't think this is going to be 6 inches long. No. I like the Dead Files. Yeah, it seems we watch a lot of ghost stuff, older ghost stuff. We'll even watch Portals to Hell. And it's hard to believe not one ghost is like, I like your dad. Good guy. Or Ghost Brothers. Yeah. Good stuff. Put things in comparison. Yeah. I can't believe, yeah. Zach would be a hard person to work with. Yeah, that's kind of funny because, yeah. Yeah, I'd rather watch Paranormal State than Goat Adventures. So, you gotta love Wisconsin. It's 32 degrees right now. Yesterday it was hailing. I'm like, what's going on, guys? Spring. Let's do spring, guys. Yeah, the last couple days I've been walking to work. Today I did not. We decided to go out to breakfast instead. I think it's more of a win-win. He is drilling, so I can sit down in the stroll sun a little bit. Careful, we can get one out of there. So we're gonna sneak up to it. So the question is your laser engraver a proper machine or is it a printer with laser engraver? We'll go look at them. So I have an older CO2. It's a 40 watt full spectrum laser. And then I have two diode lasers. So this is the X-Tool F1. It's a galvo laser, so there's a single beam that comes down and goes around. And then I got the S1, which is 40 watts. And it's a gantry style. So those are my three laser engravers. So all of those can, the CO2 and the S1 are good for about quarter-inch material for one pass. The galvo I use for marking. So I'm a big fan of enclosed lasers. I don't like the gantry ones that are just look like a 3D printer where there's no eye protection or extraction. So for the marking that I do, those are plenty. If I got a bigger one, I don't think I would I really don't make a lot of stuff that I'd be laser engraving as far as cutting stuff out. You know, if you get a cheap little gantry style one, get an enclosure for it, you know. You don't want to be breathing that stuff in. So the little tall one, you can engrave metal with it. It does have a, there's two different lasers in that machine. There's a blue laser and then a, can't think of what the other one is. It's the UV. Well, regardless, you can engrave metal with it, but it's only like, I think, 5 watts. So not very good at engraving metal. The other two, the CO2 and the big diode one, you know, you can take coatings off of things, but you can't, it's not powerful enough to engrave metal. You know, I can, you know, engrave on like plastic, that kind of thing as well. Spindle has a bunch of new lasers that have much more powerful lasers that can engrave on metal, but it's not something I do. So. So I looked. So it's got a blue ray laser and an infrared and IR laser in it. And the IR is what can do metal. So like the CO2 laser can cut clear acrylic, where the diode lasers cannot. The diode lasers can cut colored acrylic, but not clear. So you got different 3D printers. We decided to get a couple of big build volumes, 400 by 400 by 450. But they are slow because the bugs are heavy and it takes a lot to move, so the print times are ridiculous. Yeah. And the bigger the bed, you know, the more it's going to cost to heat. I know some of them you can like warm up different zones. You don't have to warm up the entire bed. I've never really wanted to have a print farm. You know, I'm down to 5 printers in the shop, which is enough. That's true. Yep. Well, you know, that little A1 Mini right now, you know, I'm using pretty much all the entire bed on it. Most of my stuff fits on the little printers. I can make the nitty natties. They come in 2 pieces that are identical. On the little printer, I can print 1 out at a time. On the bigger printers, I can print 2 out at a time. You know, I don't make helmets. So I can get away with a smaller bed on most everything. But the next time I get a printer, it's going to be a multi-nozzle printer, and I need the ability to run TPU and like PLA together. So I think the HD2 can do that, but there's a lot of cool printers that are coming out these days, so not in the market just quite yet. There's too much weight in the boards, yeah. So I'm also the guy that bought 4 Sculpto printers from Joanne Fabrics when they were closing them out. They were like $100 each, and I was making a bunch of bobbins for spinning wheels at the time, and I needed to get them out as fast as possible, so I bought these horrible printers. But they had genuine 3D hot ends on them. 3DS. Anyways, they were crappy printers. I got them to run. And, I paid them off within a week. So it was one of those things where, yeah, when I got rid of them, I wasn't too upset about it. Those are wacky. Those are bipolar printers. So it looked like a record player. Where it had basically an arm that went across the circular bed. Don't get me wrong, they were horrible printers. There was a lot to getting those things to work right. I spent quite a bit of time in different programs trying to find a slicer that would agree with those those printers. You know, I started out, my first two printers were Ultimaker 2s. And, so I cut my teeth with 3mm filament. I did eventually convert them to 1.75. Well, they were common when 3D printing was just starting to be, the rip-wrap movement just started. So when the Stratasys's patent started expiring, when the home 3D printer started, there was a lot of 3mm printers because they were made with weed whacker line, because there wasn't a, you know, they weren't making filament for them yet. So yeah, the Ultimakers are 3, you know, 2.85, Lulzbots. So I think we're going to make this one, finish this one up, and then we're going to go hang out on the scroll saw. I think it's time to sit down. My legs were barking at me yesterday, so... Which is odd, you'd think they'd be mooing because it was my calves. They've been here all week. I don't think we have any finishing on the printers, but we'll go look. I'll freshen up my coffee too. Hey Greg, welcome in. But yeah, there's like 108 little sheep on there right now. So this printer here, I need to replace some of the PTFE tubes. Number 3, I'm guessing it's got a split in it. I think they take between 9 and 10 hours to print. It is a sheep army. And it's funny because it's like when it's done, I always get the Imperial March stuck in my head because they're all, in formation. Got a few in there. Oh, and we got a new picture yesterday to put up on our wall. So we just got the free hugs picture, and it's right next to the chicken, which is next to the raccoon, which is next to the giraffe, which is next to the pig, which is next to the 2 llamas. Got some fox and giraffes, and 2 kittens and a fish. Have I seen the A1 plate reloader? I have not. I've seen a couple different plate changers. I'm not sure which one you're talking about. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, they're pretty neat. Extra code to get it to push the plate off. All right. You want me to cut that? I don't think there's room for that. We'll just leave that one up there. Alright. So, this is Red Heart. So I'm going to go through and I'm just going to drill holes in the center here. So, nothing is more exciting than watching a drill press. So we're very lucky. Right? Post-it notes. All right, make sure I didn't miss anything. Hello, hey, welcome in. Привет. Nothing better than drilling. Good time was had by all. All right. This blade is kind of on the dull side, but we're just going to chop these bigger pieces into smaller pieces. You probably want to keep a closer eye on them than I did. Oh, that'd be awesome. So this little piece here we're gonna make a little animal out of. And this piece is actually big enough to get another spindle on. So yeah, it's the best time of year. The gas station Quick Trip, spelled with a K, in Wisconsin, they finally started making their brat buns again for the season. So those are they're a wheat bun, and they're amazing. So Quick Trip's one of those weird regional gas stations. They do a good job. All right, let's get cutting. We got some minis here that'll go with those shafts we were just making. So that's a normal mini. That's a mini. That's 2.5 inches. That's 2. So this is a 1/2 inch thick red heart. Really pretty color. Tends to stain. So we're going to take the pattern off. So it's just blue painter's tape with the paper pattern glued to the top. So let's see how that mortise works out. We're gonna have to make it just a little bit taller. So I like to sneak up to the size. It's a lot easier to take a little bit of material off than try to put material back on. Yeah. Probably these, the decos. Yeah, so it has a whole bunch of more cutouts. These are all hollow. So the thought behind those were, you know, you still have a bigger spindle. It's just not going to weigh as much. Got one done. Eventually, I am going to be changing out this blade. It is dull. I might as well do it now. So it's just a thumb screw on the top and a thumb screw on the bottom. So we are using Olsen Precision Ground Tooth Blades. This is a number 7. So if you look at these blades, it's a double skip tooth blade. So there's 2 teeth, then there's a big gullet, a big gap, which would have 2 teeth in, and then another 2 teeth. So having those large gullets, it gives the sawdust a place to go. So it cuts faster because the sawdust is clearing out of the cut. But I like a lot of different style blades. These are just my favorite right now.
I am going to go sit down and...
Oh, absolutely. Take a break.
Yeah.
What are the orange things? Oh, it's a blower. So on the top, when the arm goes up and down, there's a little baffle, and it just helps blow the sawdust out. Hello, R. Welcome in. There we go. Yeah, it's jalapeno cheddar wurst. With those wheat buns from the gas station. They are delicious. And Vicky made them in the air fryer rather than just the microwave, so that's good stuff. So I'm having the best life ever. I'm playing on the scroll saw, talking to people, live streaming, watching TV. Who could ask for anything more? She has to look after me. Otherwise, chaos will ensue. We do share cooking duties. Which I kind of enjoy. We're a team. Yep, so this is Red Heart. Definitely pretty. There we go. Ah, no wonder. Like, why is this kicking me in the butt, the stupid blade? Well, if you put it in the right direction, that may help. There we go. So I look at the blade before I put it on, but then I dropped it and I was talking, so I think I forgot to check again. Which is alright. Much better. But how many of you guys can run a blade upside down and still get it done? Oh, that's funny. I have not done that in I don't know how long. Probably a decade. That's funny. If you say so. Hey Archie, sorry about that. How's it going, man? Welcome in. So yeah, we're hanging on the scroll saw right now. Eventually I'll get back to the lathe, but we got quite a bit to cut out here, so kind of taking my time. I'm cutting out the mortises on each one rather than stacking them up and coming back. It might change, but for now we'll do one at a time. These jalapeno cheddars I'm eating have a kick to them. Normally we get a different brand. This is Johnsonville. Normally we get a different brand. It's not quite as spicy. These are good though. You want a little bit of slop in here. Not a ton, but you need a little because having that, that swoop in there, you know, you need extra space for that. Plus, when you're taking them apart and you got a whole bunch of fiber on them, it's kind of nice to have a little bit of gaps in there. Plus, it's very dry. It's winter here. In the summer, it gets humid, and so you want to give yourself a little extra room because it will expand and contract. Have I ever sawn into my fingers? Absolutely. Not very often. I tend to catch myself, nick myself maybe once or twice a year. A lot of times it's because the wood has damage that I don't see. Where all of a sudden, you know, if there's a split, you're pushing and all of a sudden you push too far. Nothing a Band-Aid can't take care of. Though. You know, the plain end blades tend to be quite a bit smaller than the pin end blades. The pin end blades tend to hurt more. Yeah, it's a Band-Aid injury. Sometimes, you know, I'll super glue it back together if it's bad, but yeah. Of course, now my hands are getting, you know, covered in red because of the red heart. But I promise next time I live stream, there'll be a nice printed note rather than, you know, the post-it note. But it gets the job done. The lathe, not too much. Have I had stuff fly off on me? Yeah. I've been pretty darn lucky. The worst injury I had on the lathe was probably rather recently. I had a piece come off, and it was still in the chuck, and it was flopping around, so I went to grab it, and I did bruise my finger there. But that's the extent of it. I've cut the tip of my finger off on a table saw. I routed the top of my finger here one time, but that's about it. Now the angle of the camera also makes it look like I'm really a lot closer to the blade than I am. So when you buy a scroll saw, they do have a big hold down foot that'll sit here, which will keep your fingers away from the blade, but it just kind of gets in the way. I mean, if you're just starting out, yeah, keep that on, but I make a lot of little things, so. Well, it's not really, it really doesn't offer that much safety. But if you have something that sits like right out to here, you can't get in there and make little things. Hey, welcome in. I guarantee you, 95 out of every 100 saws that are being used do not have that hold down foot. Hey, Leonard, welcome in. So this is Yaya wood, or white wange. I kind of like the color of it too. Can you make a wooden chain with the jigsaw? Yeah, these were marketed in the 70s as jigsaws. Nowadays we call them scroll saws. And then like the handheld one, it's more of a jigsaw. Yeah, you could take a square piece and cut out a link, turn it the other way, cut out another link. And then when you're done, you have to do some little cutting and whittling to separate the links. But yeah, you can make chains with them. So we are making drop spindles. These are Turkish style. These are used to spin yarn. So this is what came before spinning wheels. So, yeah, the nice thing about the scroll saw is you can make internal cuts. So I drilled a little entry hole there. Can push the blade through. Now we can cut in the middle of the board. Hey, Ray. Excuse me. Hey, Ray, welcome in. So we are cutting Turkish spindles today. This one is Yaya wood. So I'm sneaking some coffee, and I am eating lunch right now. So. So this is my day job. I run Snyder Spindles. We are building up inventory. We have 3 festivals coming up in about a month. So I got 3 shows that are back-to-back weekends. So we have an Alpaca Festival in Madison, Wisconsin. I'm in Wisconsin, so that's the closest one. It's about an hour away. And then the weekend after that will be in Chicago, Illinois. There's another show going on there. First year, no idea what it is yet. And then the weekend after that will be up in Minnesota for Shepherd's Harvest. So, yeah. So we're getting ready to making as much product as we can to satisfy those 3 stores. Plus the online stores. Right now we don't have any wholesale orders. But that could change. Is it a cost thing? If I would make the shaft out of this material here, it would be very rough because the pores are pretty big in it. So it wouldn't feel very good. Sometimes I will make them out of the same material. But it has to be the right material. Does that kind of make sense? So yeah, most hard maple is just a really good material to use for the shafts. Hickory would be a great material too, but that's got the big pores as well. So the maple doesn't have the big pores. So when you look at it, it's very smooth. We've all seen red oak furniture on the end, how it's all full of those dots. A lot of people ask for black walnut shafts, and I will only do that for the really small ones because 7 or 8 inch shafts, I'm scared that over time they're going to warp. There was a company that used to make black walnut knitting needles, and they had a lot of issues with them warping. So if we do exotic woods that have exotic shafts on them, they're more of a specialty thing, so they do cost a little more. And then we tend to do groups where there's 3 different sizes of these, so we would have all three sizes with the exotic shafts. So when I buy the wood, if it's, you know, a lot of times it'll be different widths, if you will. So when I break it down to be this size, sometimes I cut off enough to make a piece that's square, and then I can make a shaft out of them. I got a box full of different woods. And you know, depending on the wood, you know, the price can vary quite a bit. You know, it's just the weight. You know, some woods are heavier than others. Yeah. So these are just, you know, much more solid. They're not. Yeah. Like this piece here, the spindle will probably be about 0.8 ounces. Now, if it was made out of Vera wood, it'd probably be 1.2 ounces. So yeah, the weight is the big difference between wood types. But in reality, you know, it's just, you know, people prefer, you know, pretty spindles. So. If people didn't care about exotic woods, you know, I'd be only using domestic woods. But people will pay a premium for something that's well premium. Yes, these are considered hardwood. Even balsa wood is a hardwood. Softwoods are like pine, conifers, where the trees will make cones. That's what softwood is. You gonna drill these holes real quick? Yeah, I'm very lucky that there is a lumber mill about a half hour away from me that carries exotic woods. And they sell cutoffs, so you can buy a 2-foot piece of material rather than an 8-foot piece of material. I mean, they got the big pieces too. If you need a 10-foot tall piece of Purple Heart, you can do that. Do I use recycled materials? I do. You know, it depends what kind of wood I run across. And if I do use recycled materials, it'll be in the description that it's made from whatever. A lot of times, you know, so when I moved in here, there was shelving that got taken down, and it was cedar. So since I had that cedar and it was thick, I made these little wooden catch-all trays out of it. But yeah, I picked up furniture on the side of the road and then turned it into other things. So absolutely. So I bought a whole bunch of spindles from a crib and turned those into Scottish spindles. So yeah, one crib generated, God, different spindles. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I keep reminding myself I have to order pen blanks. I don't have any pens, wooden pens made up for these next shows. I did notice that people have been asking if I have any wood pens that nobody's touched before. So I'm thinking about putting the pens in a case with like a lid on. That way those people won't be questioning the origins of them. So, hey G, welcome in. And I haven't made wooden pens in about a year and a half. But, yeah. Same thing. It would be made out of scrap material from making these. I tend to make slimline pens. I don't mind slimline. Because then I can use this thickness of wood. Thanks, honey. She keeps bringing more and more over here. It's never ending.
That's all the appliances to get sure.
Well, you're gonna have to wait until I get that material tomorrow before I start making shafts for those plying spindles. Thank you, honey. So we're probably going to cut out one more board and then go back to the lathe. She is. Actually, she is doing amazing considering taxes are almost due. I think she just finished up the mileage today, so she'll be just plugging everything in. So I'm seeing a lot of let's join the military ads from the Department of War. I think it's going to take a little bit more than that for kids to be freaking joining the military right this second. That's just me. Hello, welcome in. I don't even know how to start pronouncing it. So I will just say hello. Hey Fuzz, welcome in. So yeah, after those shows we're doing, then we're going to go down to South Carolina for a ceremony for Vicky's father who passed. Depending on how the show goes, we might take our time coming back. Find something to do. Yeah. Yeah, it seems like every ad break there's a, hey, I think I want to join the military. Yeah, I don't think you do. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out when it's a bad thing to be against fascism. I don't understand that. Yeah, this wood is very hard. It's Australia's fault for not helping out. Huh. Well, I know where we could put a didgeridoo right now. It's not a tent stake, but yeah, whatever. Hello, welcome in. How is 8 doing today? Honestly, not so much. At least where I'm sitting, I don't really interact with many real people. I mean, I'm sure if there wasn't, a war going on and, the whole Epstein stuff that, we're supposed to forget about because we're at war now. And since they fired Pam Bondi, I guess it's just done now. So it's going to be a rude awakening. But yeah, it kind of put a damper on the whole NASA thing, to be honest. But it's nice that we're not hitching rides up. We're not trying to hitch a ride with the Soviet Union. The good space station. I mean, and it's just, there's really nothing on the moon. They're gonna try to land near the South Pole and try to find some water. If there's enough water, you can make rocket fuel out of it. And then you don't have to get out of the atmosphere. So, but who knows? I'm sure if I was in grade school, we'd all be all about that. Granted, I was in middle school when the Challenger blew up. All right. Let me drill these holes, and then we'll hop back on the lathe. Paper in the hand. It's never a good idea. It's never a good thing.
So let's go for tech stuff. So we just submit this.
Okay.
She gave us the tax rate.
Okay. So we take this with us?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they said 10 days after the event closes, we can submit. So yeah, that's all we have to do. We don't need a.
Don't need a permit.
No.
That is a permit. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yep. So I always thought, I originally filed for a tax ID number for Illinois because we went to that little itty bitty.
Yeah, I mean that's way easier.
Wherever, yeah, exactly.
Thank you. Illinois is not all that bad. I don't know why my entire life I thought Illinois was horrible.
The tax rate is 10.25%.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Remind me not to live in Chicago.
But yeah.
Yes, that's the one with the teacher. Talking about the Challenger.
Oh.
We were talking about Artemis too.
Okay.
Yeah. The capsule that's going around the moon and coming home.
Oh.
They were asking if we're excited about it here in the United States, and I'm like, well, I'm old, and it's just too much, war stuff going on, and dealing with, the whole Epstein files.
Yeah. Right. Throw another thing at us there.
Hello, welcome in, Kay.
And then the whole alien thing too.
Yeah. This time, space is made out of a newly created movie, making the set over here in Western Australia. There you go. Oh, space kangaroos. Space koalas. Intergalactic drop bears. You can see it already. Hang on 1 second. Okay.
The insurance for the show and the tax stuff is
Are going into this envelope.
And it's going to go into the bag bin, the blue.
Yes, the
light blue
smaller
small
bin.
Yes,
Yes,
exactly.
yes.
That's where it's going to go.
Yes.
I'm going to put it back, just so that it helps me to remember what I did with it, and then this way, if I tell you, then you might possibly remember too.
Correct.
When they go, what the hell did I do with that? Yeah.
Well, I'll just say I don't know. And then it'll work right there. Space eucalyptus. Crazy. Well, you know, you guys made Farscape. So that was filmed in Australia. You know, it's lucky it just wasn't a little bit to the, you know, to the south. Oh man. Otherwise it would be like Space Hobbits if it was out of New Zealand. But that's where they filmed the aliens. Yeah, I know. Hello, welcome in. I'm not really aware of Australian cinema other than Farscape. Hello, I'm going to say Mamo. Welcome in. I think I already said hi, but I'll do it again. I'm distracted easily by shiny things. So yeah, tomorrow, well, let's say, I don't know when that's going to get delivered. So Thursday, I'm going to be making really long spindles again. I have a bunch of supported spindles I need to make. So I do not get very many splinters. I'm more likely to get a splinter when I'm machining the wood just to get it to the right size than I am like on the lathe. Yeah, it's really not a thing. But yeah, when I'm doing other things, yeah, splinters do happen. But by the time I get the wood, by the time it's planed and sanded, not too many splinters. But it's always a possibility. So I'm just making sure that these are long enough. I have to grab a drink. Take a peek at this one. Yeah, there's a knot right there. Yep, so today we're basically making very small shafts. So we're making the size right here. So this is more of a typical size I make. So somebody told me to put QR codes up. Now, is that something you guys actually would scan? Just asking. Because it seems like you'd have to do a screenshot and then open it up in a different app. That seems like a pain in the butt. burnishing. So you're just holding the wood chips against the wood. Think of it like a friction polish. Yeah, so these, the material, the maple, it's pretty short, so I'm not getting much of a bite on the chuck. So every once in a while, they will come off. But by the time it does come off, it's just at the final little step. Getting close. So I don't have a lot of wiggle room, so I'm kind of sneaking up to it. Yeah, I guess that would work. I mean, it doesn't matter, got the URLs down here anyway. You guys could do me a favor and just, if you're watching it on your phone, just click the screen a couple times. That will help the algorithm get some more people in here. that's what they're going to look like. This one needs sanding, but yeah, that's what they're going to look like before sanding and balancing. But yeah, those are the smallest ones I make. So they're for cobweb to lace weight, really, really thin yarn. Honestly, I think most people buy them because they're cute. They don't really plan on spinning a lot with them. But they look good on a shelf. Or on a Christmas tree. Yeah, too much vibration in this one, not a big deal. It'll go right in the fireplace. Yes, I can. You, Chuck, you got that?
No, I think you did. I don't remember doing. I don't know. Maybe I did. Who knows? I'm like, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. That's why you keep me around.
Yes.
All right. So we got some little black sheep. So this is eSun filament that I actually bought at a thrift store. It's the first time I've ever bought filament at a thrift store. It was sealed. It was never opened. Alright, and then we have 6 here. So this little printer, I print them one at a time. So the other printers, I'm printing a whole bunch at once. So by doing them one at a time, this is where I put rolls that are going to run out. That way, when it runs out of filament, I'll lose 1 sheep rather than 108 sheep. And these older printers, I will print a skirt around them. And that's just to make sure that the filament is primed and ready to come out. The newer printers I don't have to do that with. They're much smarter. Thank you so much. Alright, so that bad boy. Lovely roll there. Confirm everything's still running. So we're making some dry beans. Got 5 hours left on these. They're not looking bad. Oh crap. Okay guys, I have to run to the store and get something, so unfortunately I have to cut the stream short. So we made it 2 hours and 42 minutes. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, and I'm sorry, but we'll catch you next time. Have a great day, guys.